Happy Tuesday, everybody. Sam Shapiro back here with more of your Heat latest on FanArc. Don't forget to drop a like on this video and, of course, subscribe to our channel for great daily content, all pertaining to your Miami Heat right here Monday through Friday. Another key player that I really didn't touch on, whose role is obviously going to step up now in the absence of Tyler Herro, is obviously Davion Mitchell, now with the backcourt looking pretty open in terms of which players coming off the bench for Miami could really fill a very vital scoring role for Miami, especially in the absence of Tyler Herro until at least early November at the very best, but it's probably going to be more like Thanksgiving. And Mr. Off Night himself, I think, definitely has a lot of wiggle room to really expand on the game he to pick up right where he left off in the postseason last year, averaging nearly 15 points per game and 6 assists to go along with 2 rebounds in the playoff series against Cleveland. Kind of how he ended the year was kind of the only glimmer of hope consistently that Miami had that really came out of nowhere and really contributed to Miami even somewhat staying in some of those games, especially over the course of that playoff sweep series against Cleveland. So I'm hoping that in the absence of Tyler Herro, Davion Mitchell is a returning cast member that can really help contribute to Miami's success. And I think he's kind of got all the tools around him, especially in Miami's front court with Kel'el Ware and Bam Adebayo, at least on the starting line up front. And then complementing Powell's game, I think he'll also do a great job also being able to potentially be a starter for Miami now with Tyler Herro kind of out of the picture, at least for the first month and a half of the season, really. And so, or at least for the first 8 weeks that Tyler Herro is expected to be out. So drop in the comments if you think Mitchell will kind of be able to kind of pick up where he left off last postseason, kicking off the tip-off of this regular season, because I think he's got a lot of the tools around him to kind of continue to capitalize on developing his game. Now, granted, in the 30 games they played before the playoffs, Mitchell was averaging around 10 points per game as well, starting in 15 of those games, really kind of capitalizing on not just the offensive prowess he could bring to Miami, but also the facilitating, and then his overall two-way game, getting that nickname off Mr. Off Night himself, being able to really kind of shake up especially superstar guards like Stephen Curry defensively. I think because he was able to get that name, I think he's going to be able to contribute defensively a lot more than people would honestly give him credit for. So I'm excited to see how Mitchell kind of takes advantage of the absence of Tyler Herro, and now without a team that's returning with Duncan Robinson as well. I think that just creates more opportunities for him in the grand scheme of things. So I'm excited to see what Davion Mitchell is going to bring to this Heat team as we go into the beginning of this regular season without the cornerstone, at least, of Miami's backcourt. And I'm hoping that he can kind of continue to develop even further. Obviously being able to see him average 15 and 6 coming out into the beginning of this regular season would be great, especially if it contributes to helping land more of Miami's matchups in the win column to start off the regular season, because right now I feel like Miami is definitely being counted out in terms of potentially being a 6 to 8 seed in the Eastern Conference now, with one of their biggest pieces not going to be present for the first couple of games. So again, I'm hoping that this opportunity kind of creates a lot of really just more opportunities for Davion Mitchell to come out and pick up right where he left off last year. But moving over to some other guys that I think are going to capitalize on the absence of Tyler Herro, obviously, as well. I've been talking about Simone Fontecchio's development over the course of the Summer League, setting a scoring record for Italy over the Eurobasket tournament this past summer. And I think because of now with the absence of, again, players like Duncan Robinson, it's going to create a lot more opportunities for players like Mitchell to facilitate some quick three-point buckets for Fontecchio, and hopefully that will kind of allow him to kind of find a little bit more of his game, especially offensively, as he kind of looks at a team that now kind of is going to need a little bit more firepower, especially in the offensive front. Fontecchio definitely more flexible, I feel, in terms of being able to be a small forward shooting guard type player for Miami in this role. And if you kind of bump Mitchell up to the 1 and then you have Powell and Wiggins kind of fluctuating at the 3 position, you could kind of have Fontecchio be one of those bigger guards, at least complementing Mitchell in the backcourt, kind of not just helping out with facilitating, but also with trying to get a good look in terms of open three-pointers that Miami could kind of capitalize now with the absence of arguably 24 less points when you're taking the one-time All-Star and obviously Tyler Herro out of the picture. So drop in the comments if you think now that with Herro's absence, it's going to kind of create more opportunities for Fontecchio to kind of find himself as a scorer in Miami's lineup and ultimately kind of give Piston fans a little bit of a run for their money in the sense that they're paying Duncan Robinson to also be one of their main three-point shooters. I'm not saying Fontecchio is going to be better on Miami than Duncan Robinson will be on the Pistons just yet, but I definitely think that Fontecchio will definitely be one of those players in the rotation that will capitalize on Herro's absence in the grand scheme of things. And now moving over to another player that I think could potentially find more of a solid role in Miami's rotation with the absence of Tyler Herro as well. Drew Smith also coming off a lot of adversity in terms of injuries he has gone through over the last couple of seasons. And I think now more than ever, this is the time for the two-way guards. It's really his time to shine. And I think that, obviously you can't put the entire load on players like Davion Mitchell, Pelo Larson, Kasparis Yakuchones, who's also trying to find his place really in this league. I think Drew Smith also has a lot to prove in terms of what he's going to be able to bring to Miami's rotation in the grand scheme of things. And I'm excited to see in terms of the type of minutes he gets now with that more with a little bit more flexibility in the rotation and seeing how he's going to contribute to both sides of the ball for Miami. Obviously, I think defensively they're going to have to make up a lot of ground just because that front court's still kind of lacking the big man Miami really needed to acquire this past offseason, and there's no reason to think that at least over the next couple of months Miami might not find that guy. I've talked about how Dane Danger could potentially step up and be that guy Miami had been looking for. There's no reason why Miami could maybe find an emerging forward that could potentially fill a deeper role that Miami will kind of assume that they'll need now with the absence of Herro, at least until right around Thanksgiving time, I would say. But I'm excited to see if Drew Smith is going to contribute to Miami's backcourt now with a little bit more flexibility in terms of where players are going to get plug and played in Miami's rotation and hopefully keeping them on the map with the kind of lack of offensive scoring they're now going to have in the absence of Tyler Herro. So drop in the comments if you think Drew Smith could potentially find a more promising, solid role in Miami's rotation now with the absence of Tyler Herro, kind of that also sinking in, also following, his procedure on Friday on his ankle. But now moving over to a guy who's definitely going to have to pick up pretty much arguably the most slack out of any of the players I had just mentioned before. Norman Powell has had eyes on him all summer and potentially being a major, major scoring piece that Miami is going to need to come out and capitalize. And I kind of touched on this last episode as well, as obviously he's going to have to be one of those players that steps up. But I think in the way that he's going to have to step up now is a little bit more important now than ever. Obviously, fans expecting Powell to come out and pick up where he left off with the Clippers, being a 20-point plus scorer per game. And I think now he kind of has to do that, especially with the lack of scoring now with Tyler Herro being absent that is going to need to be fulfilled for Miami going into this season. And I think now that also Herro is out of there, it will create more shot opportunities for the shooting guard, small forward, so to speak, to really come out and make the most out of that. And I think this will also allow Miami to play or have at least their starting rotation a little bit bigger. I kind of see Davion Mitchell pairing up with Norman Powell and Andrew Wiggins, and that definitely puts the size on Miami's side in terms of what their starting lineup could be in the absence of Tyler Herro. And I'm excited to see how they're going to gel together because assuming Tyler is able to come back healthy and play out the rest of the regular season following this ankle injury, it will kind of give Powell a lot more time to really form some unique, stronger chemistry with some of these guys as the regular season starts off. So then when you're plugging in an all-star corner piece like Herro back into the rotation, Powell can kind of maybe take a step back a little bit and could even potentially get more comfortable in averaging less than 20 points per game at this point in time. But I do think right now, coming into the beginning of this regular season, if Powell wants to prove that he's going to be a very focal piece in this rotation, this is the opportunity now more than ever that he needs to score more than 20 points per game, especially if it's going to contribute to Miami's success, because I think if he's able to do that, Miami can definitely finish with more games to start off the regular season in the win column for sure. But drop in the comments what you think Norman Powell needs to do. If you agree with me that he needs to average at least 20 points per game for Miami to be successful, kicking off those games in the absence of Tyler Herro, or if maybe he can rely on some of the younger guys who had developed over the course of this offseason and guys like Davion Mitchell to kind of pick up some of the slack and share some of that scoring load a little bit as well to kind of get ultimately the facilitation amongst the guards and the front court really going and allowing Yaku Chones and Davion Mitchell to kind of build more chemistry with guys like Bam and Kalel Ware, and then potentially other guys like Vlad Golden and some of the other forwards like Dane Danger that I had mentioned as well. But I'm excited to hopefully see how Powell gels with Miami and hopefully can pick up where he left off with the Clippers last season as well. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Your Heat Latest right here on FanArc. Don't forget to drop a like on this video and, of course, subscribe to our channel for great daily content, all pertaining to your Miami Heat right here Monday through Friday. Thanks so much for joining us on this wonderful Tuesday. I'm Sam Shapiro. Have a great day.